This episode is brought to you by Fandango. People say fans are too distracted these days, but the truth is, when a great movie hits the screen, you show up. You stay glued, invested, part of the story. And without fans like you, there'd be no cinema magic, no shared moments. So head to Fandango.com to get tickets, stream, or rent or buy top movies and series. Fandango loves fans.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
There's no one like you, and there never will be.
From the producer of Bohemian Rhapsody, there are many legends, but there is only one. Michael, rated PG-13, in theaters April 24.
Hello and welcome to episode 271 of the Washed Up Emo Podcast. I am Tom Mullen from washedupemo.com. Today on the podcast, we welcome Lad from Park. If you don't know about Park, definitely a band that we need to talk about. We need to explain. If you haven't dove in, fantastic band from this era that we all love. Now, you can also check him out because this music you're listening to, and at the end of every podcast moving forward, is Lad from Park rocking it with the Washed Up Emo Copycaster, which is through Baldwin Guitars. So we talk about the guitar that Park is jamming because he was super interested in testing out the guitar. We also talk about his band. We talk about his book that he wrote, future plans. We get into a lot of different things that I think you'll enjoy. But really, it was great to have Lad on the show. We talk a lot about the guitar, which hopefully you dig. And so, yeah, it is the Washed Up Emo Copycaster, which is on part of Baldwin Guitars, and they put that together. So hopefully you dig. All right, this is episode 271 of the Washed Up Emo Podcast with Lad Mitchell from Park. Hello, is this Lad?
This is.
This is Tom Mullen. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You've been on my list for a long time. I think I saw a few interviews of you. Have you kind of started up a little bit more now that it's starting up in 2025?
I've done a few, and I kind of what prompted that is I wrote a book. So I've just been off of social media for, I don't know, a year, and I really liked not being on social media. And then I wrote this book and was like, I want to start promoting this. And a friend of mine who was, I don't know, like a year out ahead of me in the promotion process for her fiction book was like, you can do it without social media, but it's significantly harder. So I was like, I guess I'll hop back on there. So I started doing some book interviews, and then I was like, you know what, I'll do some Park interviews and maybe, kill two birds with one stone and trying to get, the Park stuff back out there because we were writing new music and stuff. So yeah, I started to answer your question. Yeah, I started doing being a little bit more active on social media in mid 2025, I think.
Nice. Tell me about the book.
It's it's kind of funny whenever I mention it to friends. I'm like, I wrote a fiction book that revolves around volleyball, and they all scrunch their eyes up and go, why volleyball? And I think if I would have written a book like about, I don't know, curling or pickleball, they would have gone, oh, okay. But when I say volleyball, they're like, what? And my wife played volleyball in high school and college. And she had a positive experience overall, but she had some mental hurdles to get over. And long story short, I went out and tried to find, years later after she stopped playing, I went out and tried to find a book just on some similar things that she went through in her journey. And I couldn't find one specifically about volleyball. So I was like, I guess I'll try to write one, because I always kind of dorked around in the van while we were touring with writing short stories and stuff. And I was like, that sounds like something interesting. So I just started, drafting in 2020, and then volleyball as a sport actually has gotten pretty more, I don't want to say super popular, but the popularity of it has grown exponentially. And so, yeah, I've been trying to market it around the volleyball community to discuss, the mental health of athletes, and how it's not super talked about in the public eye, because the protagonist in my book goes through some issues where they're a high performing athlete and they're just kind of crumbling from their own pressure, and how they get back to themselves.
I
So it's
fucking love that.
Kind of like a Rudy meets Black Swan.
That's such a good analogy. Oh my God. Rudy, I was on a basketball team before I got cut the year that we won the state championship. But when I was on the team, and I become the videographer and videoed and realized I should go this route instead of with the jocks. But I was on the team and we took a long trip on a coach bus, which was like a big deal. Like we usually took school buses, right? And we watched Rudy on the way. And it finished like as we were going into this like larger high school, we got demolished. We got absolutely demolished, even with that, even with Rudy.
Yeah.
It happens.
What sport was that? Basketball?
It was basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm too short to play basketball. I would have gotten me killed.
That's really cool. So you kind of started writing it in 2020, and then what was it like releasing it? What was it like putting that out in the world? Because it's such a different beast than a song.
Yeah, it's I thought, for some silly reason in my head, I thought it would be easier than releasing a record, in which, you write a record, you go record it, you play shows on it, and that's how you get it out into the world. At least that's, how Park did it. I think it might be a little bit different now, with, all the social media, but I thought it'd be the same kind of thing. And but being easier because it was speaking to, I guess, a niche audience of people, of how do I want to say this, athletes who, I guess, don't really get a whole lot of attention, at least in the volleyball world, since it's so niche. So I thought that was like, a good idea, and would be more well received, I guess. And it hasn't been ill received. It's just getting people to read a book is hard. And I understand, because people give me a book and I'm like, that's like 3 or 4 hour investment, of my time. And while I love reading, you can't, it's not like listening to songs where someone gives you a CD of songs and you can, work and listen to the CD at the same time and still kind of absorb stuff. Reading, you have to, really invest in it, or you can, listen to an audiobook, which is similar but not the same, but
I found that really hard. Like I listened to Dave Grohl's in the car, like I was just like doing a lot of driving, and then I remember reading it, and I don't know, it was a different feeling. Audiobooks are hard for me.
It is. It's just a different thing, and I find that when I use audiobooks, it's usually heavier books, heavier material. Like I'm listening to 1984 on audiobook right now.
Hell yes.
While I work out, and I'm like, you know what, this might not be the best thing, because I'm like losing my train of thought, and I'm like, wait, what did they say? And I'll like, rewind it 30 seconds. So it might not be the best, atmosphere to do that in, but no, it's really tough releasing a book and thinking, having the expectations, I guess I did, because it's just such a different animal. And the assumption that I had before I went into this was, I'll self-publish it, I'll put it on Amazon, and then away you go. And that's like not the case. There's like so much work you have to do, and Amazon works with algorithms and not really how much you're selling, but it's I don't want to use, it's kind of a scam, how they have things set up on there on Amazon. It is and it isn't. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it's
is tough.
So did you do physical and digital, or just digital?
I did ebook and a paperback, and I was starting to work on an audiobook, and I abandoned it because the people I had auditioned just weren't, I was like, this is too big of a project right now for me to do. So in the future, I want to have an audiobook, but to answer your question, yeah, paperback and ebook right now.
Nice. Are you, because I also publish books, so this is why I was very interested. Would you need like multiple voice actors for your audiobook, or will you have one person do it?
I need two, because the book is actually a book within a book. So what specifically happens is this high performing athlete gets injured in a really, really clutch part of the season and cannot play. So while they're not playing, they find this book of a parallel self, and they start becoming jealous of this parallel self, because in that book, this doppelganger that this protagonist is reading about gives into every single whim that she fights against to be a high performing athlete. So she starts seeing what the other side of maybe not being so driven looks like. And that book is written from the point of view of a man. And the rest of the book is third person omniscient, but from the point of, but probably better read from a woman. So I would need a woman and a man to do it. And that's tough. I keep thinking of all the ways I shot myself in the foot on this when I'm like trying to do all the things.
You're like, if I changed that one thing, this thing would already been out there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, but I guess what they're doing now, I can't remember what it's called, but there's like audio book productions where it's like a movie. Then you're like listening
Yes.
to like, it's almost like War of the Worlds, how War of the Worlds was done. And I was like, that would be awesome. And I started thinking about it for like 2 or 3 days. And then I quickly abandoned that, because I was like, you need like directors and all sorts of crazy crap. But it would be really cool to do and to go through that experience. But it's just too big of a project.
That's a really great use of your time. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I figure if you're going to, we have kids and they're getting older to the point where they don't need as much attention anymore. So it's like, hey, we can actually kind of work on some of the projects we, put on hold while we couldn't because there were too many things to do with the kiddos. So it's kind of like, wow, what do I want to do? And it's kind of an exciting place to be, because you're like, hey, I'm kind of finding myself again.
Yeah. I always like to go back, but I think it's so great that we're talking about the present. You had said in late 2025 that you're recording more songs. You're kind of rekindling the park name. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'm trying to think how that got started. I think in the beginning of 2025, well, we had started playing some more shows, and we were just, playing the old material and trying to switch it up as much as we possibly could to keep it interesting for us. And I had always told the guys, hey, I got all these, songs from like almost like a 10-year backlog of stuff. What do you want to do with them? And I think I had like 10 songs. I was like, here are the 10 that I feel like are the most ready to go. And being realistic about it and pragmatic, we knew we didn't have the time to do all 10 in one run. So I was like, well, let's pick 4. We'll pick 4 of these and see what happens. And I'll work on those as much as I possibly can to fine tune them. So we got to that point, and then Lobster got involved, Lobster Records, and they said, hey, we want to help out with whatever you guys are doing. And so we were like, well, we're thinking of doing this EP. So they helped us, secure funds and stuff to go up and record at Electrical Audio in Chicago with Cameron Webb. So we had to fly Cameron out from California, because he's the person we always worked with on all of the other albums, and he since has worked with like Motorhead and a bunch of other bands. So we were really excited to kind of rekindle that relationship, which was, we hadn't talked to him in, I don't know, almost 20 years. And it was like, we never missed a beat. It was just,
that's awesome.
Very, very easy to get right back in the saddle of things. And so yeah, that's kind of how we started with the new releases and stuff. And I think we're trying to get those 4 songs out on vinyl within the first quarter of this year. And I think it just depends on the ordering process through vinyl, which I'm not in charge of any of that stuff. So yeah,
just like a vinyl version of previous songs that haven't been on vinyl, or new songs?
No, these are 4 brand new songs.
4 brand new songs. Hell yeah.
4 brand new songs, and then maybe you'll be a little more in the now on this, but I don't even know if bands are doing albums anymore, if they just like do releases. Like there's a band that I really like called the Greeting Committee, sorry, and they release like one song like 4 months ago. I was like, cool, must have a new album coming out, and then nothing. And then like another 4 months, they release another song, and I'm like, is this what people do now? Just release singles? And I guess that's something that some bands do. I don't know. Have you heard that?
Yeah, sometimes it is just a song. Sometimes it will be an album and then it's rolled out. There are infinite ways, but yes, some people will do like single, and then the rest of the songs, or just an EP all at once, or individual with different release dates, different album art, or different, single art, and then a vinyl release after. Yeah. You're jogging my memory from my music industry days, where I was doing this every day. So yeah, there are multiple ways to do this. And yeah, singles are sometimes what people will do. Hey, we got a song, let's get some single art up, and done.
Cool. That makes sense. Yeah, but that's kind of where we're at with the new stuff. We're just getting ready to do this 4-song EP. And then our very loose plan is, we have these other 6 songs, and we're going to keep refining those and hopefully record those by the end of this year sometime, and get those out as well. But I've got the crappiest practice as a musician. I'll get stuck on a part of a song. I'm like, instead of working my way through this part, I will just go write a new song. and then I've got like 30 parts sitting around that kind of help sometimes, because if I get stuck, I'll be like, oh, you know what? I wrote this new part that actually goes with the part I was stuck on. But it took me 4 months to do it, because I had to go from I wrote like 6 versions of this thing, but which is kind of cool you can do now with all the technology, because back when Park was active, all I had was, I guess I went from like a Tascam Porta Studio on a cassette tape, where you were very limited with the stuff you could do. And then I bought this thing called the Boss BR1180 that was a hard disk recorder that had, I don't know, we had probably 50, 60 songs on that thing.
Wow.
That actually, I just we moved into the house I have now, I don't know, 3 years ago. And I dropped the BR1180 when I was bringing it inside the house. I was like, I gotta check, make sure that things work, and it doesn't work anymore. And so I've been trying to go around and people be like, can you get all this stuff off this hard drive? Because it's all the demos for Building a Better were on there. There were snippets of endless songs on there, because I was going to take that and be like, this is going to be my starting point for all the new Park stuff. And I tried to remember a lot of it, but your memory is kind of shitty at some points, and you're like, I can't remember. But a fun part of doing that is be like, what's this song? Oh yeah, I can't remember doing that, but that's actually pretty cool. And I probably thought it was stupid 15 years ago when I did it. But yeah, so kind of broke my heart when that thing broke. But hopefully there's someone out there who can figure out how to get the hard drive working. But that's kind of where we're at with the new stuff. I know I kind of rambled on there a bit.
No, this is a podcast. You're supposed to do that. How do you organize when you are stuck on a part? Is it like 10, 15 minutes and you go, man, fuck this song, I'm going to work on something else? And then do you label it like Lad, January 31st, noon, fail? How do you organize it? Or is it just, yeah.
So dude, I'm going to open up my computer and just let you know some of the names of these demos, because they're really funny. 80s demo, 90s ripoff, Baldwin Guitar Comp. That was what I did. I was comparing your guitar to my guitar. Harnessed and Slums ripoff. I guess I ripped off of Archers of Loaf song. A lot of these I'll say ripoff. Big Drum Song, okay. 1979 ripoff. What are some other ones? But I get to the process I usually go through when I get stuck. I don't like writing lyrics. So I will like write a full song. It's like, got all the parts, and then I go, cool, I guess I got to write lyrics. And then I'll be lazy and go, I don't want to do it right now. I'll just write another song. And that's usually where I stop the process. So I'll have a backlog of a bunch of songs that I need to write lyrics to, and which was usually a huge point of anxiety back in the day, because we would go into the studio with the Lobsters when we were on Lobster and be like, we got 10 songs, lad. We haven't heard the lyrics to any of them. I'm like, yeah, I got it figured out. And that was a lie. I'd sit there and be like, I'm going to spend the night at the studio and write some lyrics, guys. And so I'd like power through like 3 songs in a night. And there was a couple songs when they're like, hey, lad, it's like the last 2 or 3 days we're in the studio, we have to record this song. And I had nothing. And I was like, go get some tacos or something and leave me here for 10 minutes. And they'd do that. And I'd write the song really quick. I don't like doing that anymore. I think I futzed with like a few lines when we were up there at Electrical Audio with Cameron, but 99% of all the lyrics were already done, which was nice, because then you could like spend time refining stuff instead of writing, which is, I think what the better option when you're in the studio, because Park always had such limited time in the studio when we were doing records that there's no, we can't have a 10-minute argument about a part. It's just, we just don't have the time for it. So we would go in there as ready as possible and just bang the songs out. We did these last 4 songs in 4 days, and which I think is super quick. And it was just the atmosphere was, really, really fun. It wasn't as anxiety filled as it used to be with when we were like at going out to California to record. But yeah, it was I usually get stopped at the lyrics because I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, I like the song how it is. I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, that makes total sense. So for you, what has it been like reconnecting with everybody? It seems like on your history, it's been part of your life. It's come in and out. You've come in and out of, either social media or this band. I mean, 30 years now.
Yeah, I think we never really disconnected. The band broke up in 2007, and I don't think we didn't actively practice or play for about 3 years. But we all, still stayed in touch. I think there was maybe right after we broke up, maybe we didn't talk for like a year or something. I don't know, but there was never ill will between anyone. It was just we got busy with our lives and stuff. And so in 2010, we did a reunion show, and there was a lot of people, and we were like, oh wow, that was fun. So we just kind of kept doing that, and sometimes we'd get together and just practice just for fun, and without any of that pressure of we got to get ready for a tour, we got to get ready for these shows. And we just did a few shows in November with Junior Varsity and Tokyo Rose, and preparing for those was really fun. It wasn't like how I remember preparing for tours in the old days, where it was like a little bit of arguing over song order. It was, we just got together and laughed and made fun of each other when we messed up and stuff. And it was just so much more lighthearted. So I guess to answer your original question, yeah, we never really disconnected. I think we actually kind of become a stronger unit since disbanding and then getting back together, because we're able to focus on music as it really matters, and not like, hey, we're in a band, we're trying to do XYZ and trying to reach, whatever goal we have. It was just, let's just almost like got back to the root of why you get in a band, which is to play music with your buddies. When I first started playing guitar, it was just to annoy my big brother. He bought a guitar, and I thought he gets pissed when I go in there and play it, and it's funny. And he caught me one time, and I thought he was going to beat me up. And instead of beating me up, he just was like, well, do you want to learn how to play? I was like, sure. And so after he explained to me how a guitar worked, I was like, that's it? He's like, yeah. And I was like, that seems pretty simple. And which it is and it isn't, but so long story short, me and him got into all sorts of metal, and we were just playing like, Anthrax and Metallica and Slayer, which is odd because you play these. We picked the hardest shit to play right out of the gate, and I can remember being so frustrated. Like, I'm like, I don't know how James Hetfield plays, the rhythm part of Disposable Heroes and sings. I don't know how he does that. Just like all the crap you're thinking. And then. All of that kind of morphed into, we got into like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins, and started learning some of that, which I think is it's easier to play, but just a different type of music. And so I had no clue that in my hometown of Springfield, Illinois, there were people playing in bands, kids my age. And so I would go to school and just, listen to kids talk about, hey, I went to this punk rock show, and at Skank Skates or at the community center or wherever it was. And I'd be like, what are you guys talking about there? Well, Ingot's playing down there, or Annihilate's playing down there this week. I'm like, what is that? And they're bands. So I went down there that weekend with my friend Eric Perez, and I was like, just my jaw was on the floor. I think I was 15 or 16. I could not believe that kids my age were getting together, making music, and people were actually attending these shows. That was like, I thought, a concert was, you went and you saw, like, I went and saw Journey at the State Fair in like the 1980s. I was like, that's a concert, and this was, the people were 2 feet in front of me. I could reach out and touch them. I could watch them play their instrument. And in the first, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months that I went to these small punk rock shows, I learned so much about guitar just from watching other people play and how they played, and then having conversations with them. So I got in a couple of local bands, punk rock bands, and then I was in a band with a bunch of girls, and which was actually a really fun project. It was like one of the most fun bands I've ever been in, because we had zero clue what we were doing, but it was just like, let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens when you stick this to the wall. And so that went on for, I don't know, 3 years, until I was like 18 or 19. And then we played a band I was in played a show with Park, who was a totally different lineup at that time. It was two kids who had started the band named Justin Valenti and John Heipel, and they had a drummer named Eric Leip. And I watched them play, and after the show, I was like, can I come play with you guys? Because they were a 3-piece, and they're like, yeah. So we just started banging through songs, and we recorded a few 7-inches, toured a little bit. They didn't go well, those tours. They just, we didn't know what we were doing. And then we recorded a full length and a few other demos that we never did anything with. And then right before we disbanded that version of Park, we recorded 4 songs in Champaign with this guy named Brendan Gamble at the same studio that American Football had recorded. Is it self-titled?
Yeah.
Is that a self-titled album? Yeah. And so foolishly, you think, we'll go record there, and that's what our album will sound like.
Really?
And that doesn't happen,
No, it doesn't. No.
So
just because you
anyway,
did it at Sound City, you're not gonna,
right?
It's not gonna happen.
So we recorded, I think 4 or 5 songs with Brendan Gamble down there, and we didn't do anything with them. And then Park had broken up, that version had, and I started playing with Miles, who is the current drummer now, and he was in all these ska bands and was always like, hey, do you want to play? Because he heard that Park had just broken up, and I was like, I don't want to be in a ska band. I'm sorry, I don't want to play with you. And foolishly thinking that's what he wanted to play, and so he was real persistent. And so I finally relinquished and went over there to his house with a friend of mine named Timmy, who I had been recording just one-off demos with, and had a great time with him and with that lineup. And I was like, well, hey, Park has these 4 songs that we never really did anything with. You guys just wanted to learn these? So we're like, yeah, well, we need another guitar player. So Justin, who originally started the band Park, came in and played guitar, because he originally played bass in Park. And so that solidified like the first second version of Park. And we learned those songs, and we were like, you know what, let's just be Park. And started writing our own songs. And then we got signed to Lobster Records and started putting out records with them. But I think when I first, back to the original question of how did I find emo? In high school, I was thinking, it's really weird you asked that, because my kid had Scholastic Bowl today, and he was at the Scholastic Bowl. His Scholastic Bowl tournament was in my old high school. And so I was actually walking down the halls that this happened in. This kid came up to me who was in a local band at the time, and he had a shirt on that just said Emo Core. And he had made this shirt with
Wow.
permanent green and red markers. And I was like, Emo Core, huh? And he goes, yeah. I said, are they any good? He goes, it's not a band, jackass. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And so I was like, what is that? And he started naming off bands. He was like, Rites of Spring. I think he might have said Don Caballero. Back a Dave was the one that he said, which was a band from Alton, Illinois. And he was like, they're playing, this weekend. So I remember going and seeing Back a Dave and was just like, holy shit, these guys are crazy. And that was like my introduction to emo, and seeing that. And from there, we went to a lot of shows in Champaign, because the U of I had, what were the two big bands they had there? Well, they weren't big. Braid and Rainer Maria.
Yeah.
I don't know if Rainer Maria was from there, but they always
They went
there.
to school there, and I what they told me is they had like a place that they put on shows. Like them specifically had a place. So yeah, that makes total sense.
And so I remember seeing Braid and Rainer Maria, like, I don't know, 50 times, like so many times, and hearing that type of music. And I was like, that's, a different direction than what I was trying to do at that time with, like, I don't know, still kind of a little metalhead, trying to, figure out how to write these metal songs. And I was like, I kind of like that a lot better, because there was this, and this was when Braid was doing like the Frankie Welfare Boy H5 screaming, I was like, I can't scream. I sound like a witch when I scream. And so I was like, maybe, I could do something like that, but with a little bit more singing. And so kind of went in that direction. But I tell you what, the biggest, not aha moment, but the biggest exposure I ever had to other bands was when I got Braid's Frankie Welfare Boy H5. And instead of thanking bands on the CD, which I think they still did, they put the bands on this in the CD. Like between the songs, they would have a radio that was like trying to find a station, and then you'd hear 30 seconds of a song. You'd be like, what's that? And they listed all that in the album. So I went down to the local record store. And I was like, dude, I want to order the Cap and Jazz CD. I want to order the Gauge CD. I want to order, Boilermaker, whatever CD bands they had playing in there. I can't remember if Boilermaker was one of them, but that was how I found out about, multitude of bands that I really, really liked. And I didn't really, that was the beginning of what I considered emo, at least Midwest emo to me, in this Chicago, Illinois area. It had a real specific sound. And at that time, when other bands across the nation were saying, here's, Sunny Day Real Estate they're from the West Coast, right? From
Seattle,
that's a total different flavor. And then, the North, the East Coast had, Fugazi, which I guess might be considered, I don't really consider them emo. They're just kind of Fugazi. Yeah. Each area in the States that was promoting and creating their own brand of emo was like this self-sustained ecosystem.
Yeah.
That hadn't interacted with all of the other areas yet. So it was kind of like in this raw state in the mid 90s to, late 90s, that those things hadn't melded yet. It was riskier. There was like a risk in it of like, I'm going to buy this. I don't know what it sounds like. And I just like the album cover. Someone told me it was cool, or I might have seen, sometimes when you saw a band play live,
you go buy it.
I'm going to get that. And you buy it and you bring it home. You're like, this doesn't sound like this.
Dude, I have so many of those. Oh man, you're like, it was only $8, and then and you get home and you're like, this thing is recorded in a trash can. Like it is bad. I also thought too, when you get the record, because you only had so much money and you bought it, I would force myself like I would like almost punish myself for buying something because it's like, well, you spent the money, you better listen to it. So even records I didn't like because I only had so many, I would force myself to listen to it.
Yeah, and then sometimes you get it.
Yeah, on like the
that's
12th listen.
Yeah, that's the exact same way you just described exactly how I fell in love with Braid. And because I went and saw them play, I was like, whatever, and went outside, and 10 minutes later they finished, and Roy Ewing, the drummer, was like, hey, do you want to buy a 7-inch? I'm like, I don't really want to. And he was persistent enough to where I finally bought this thing. And then I went home and listened to it. And I remember sitting there making fun of it with my brother. Because I was like, dude, I know how they write this. They write all the music out and they just chop it up with a freaking knife and just separate it. And it annoyed me that I didn't understand it. So I just kept listening to it. And finally you're like, I get it. I get what they're trying to do. And it's really fucking cool. When the band stopped playing, I got really into, I don't know if I want to say singer, songwriter, folk, but like I immediately connected with musicians like Daniel Johnston, who, if you listen to it, it's like, dude, this was recorded on a tape recorder in a dude's bedroom. He can't sing, he can't play guitar, but you believe him when he sings. You're like, I know exactly what this person is going through. I know what they're talking about. There's a passion there, and it's absolute, I don't even know how to describe it. It is raw, unadulterated, unrefined talent. And that's like, I don't even know how to react to that. But it was like, I'd have I'm like, Jude, you got to listen to Daniel Johnston. And they'd go, this is horrible. I'm like, but it's not. It's not horrible. You're just not listening to it. Listen to the pieces in between it. And the interesting thing happens is when you'll take a Daniel Johnston song that someone else has covered and go, oh, now the guy's singing in key and the guitar's not out of tune. Yeah, I like that. I'm like, but this is the starting point of it. This was the unrefined gold part that made that. I was like, you got to appreciate that. And so, yeah, it kind of works both ways. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. What do you feel made you connected to those bands when you started hearing it? You brought the Braid thing in and said, I need to order these records. Like, why do you think you connected with it?
A lot of it was the guitar work, because there's a lot of, especially in that, I can't even remember the name of the 7-inch, Rain Snow Match, I think is what it's called. I have the original version of it, and I played it so much it doesn't work anymore. And then I bought a reissue of it. And then I think all the songs are on Movie Music Volume 1 and 2, or whenever those things, when they released all of their singles. But the guitar work was what drew me to it at first, because where I had listened to like these metal bands who were really precise with their guitar work, and it was real clean. It was recorded in a professional studio with a professional producer. These bands were doing it DIY, and they weren't great musicians, and by musical standards, I'm using air quotes. There was some sloppiness to it, and I liked that, because that was like, hey, you can do this. Like the stuff like, Yngwie Malmsteen and fucking Joe Satriani, that shit that you're trying to do, good luck.
Yeah, it just felt unattainable.
Yeah, but I remember going through each of those songs. I think, I'm trying to think of the name of the song. It's the first song off of that Rain Snow Match. There's a breakdown, and there's this guitar work, and I'm like, I don't know how he's doing this. And I got the brilliant idea. I was like, I'll just go watch them play at a show next weekend and watch him play the fucking song, and then maybe ask him, how are you doing this? And that was kind of like the connection point for figuring out some of those pieces, and then going, how do I integrate that into my own writing? Because it sounds really cool. And Braid always had that, in the early days, they were kind of quirky, they had these quirky little breakdown parts.
Yeah.
And I really liked those, because it was almost kind of like, these real jaunty little parts that didn't really belong in the song. And that was one of the things that really drew me to that. And then, like I said, from there, I just started going to other shows. And like, I remember going and seeing Braid play with Boys Life. And I was like, who's Boys Life? And they played. I was like, holy shit. Like, these guys are unbelievable. And so I bought their album. And I mean, I found out about 100 bands just going and seeing shows. And I don't know if that's, the same way people do that now. I know, you know what? I just answered my question. I don't do that because the bands I'm into now, I just sit there on Apple Music and I'm like, nope. Yeah, I like this band. I'll download their album.
All right, I think that's a first. And a guest has answered their own question immediately following and contradicting.
Well, I started thinking that because me and my wife will be out in my backyard having a fire, and we're like, drinking beers and whatnot, and just like, you like this band? No, this band. And it's so fun. A buddy of mine who's like commented that for the type of music you play, he goes, you don't listen to that anymore. And I'm like, no, it's all like shoegazy, like reverb laden crap that when I try to do it, it just sounds like, the world is falling apart and I can't do it very well. But yeah, so
I want to hear the world falling apart stuff. That seems right in line with what's going on. That's great. So for you, I also was thinking earlier with your brother, you kind of reenacted a scene from Step Brothers with the drum set, with you playing the guitar without him knowing.
No, he got pissed. I thought he was going to get pissed.
Do you remember the scene from Step Brothers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he put his nuts on the drum set. So I heard Will Ferrell has the prosthetic balls. Like they
look prosthetic.
Yeah, he kept them. Which I thought was really funny. But yeah, so I'm really happy that your brother kind of like brought you in. I kind of really like that. Like was like, okay, you want to do this? Okay.
Yeah, it was interesting because he would go get lessons from this guitar player in town, and then he would come back, and it was such a unique way to learn guitar because this guy was teaching him how to play, but then they always say the best way to learn is teach. So then he would teach me what he had been taught. And so there was this weird triangle of, of teaching. And it was pretty interesting because he's naturally left-handed writing, but plays guitar right-handed. And I am right-handed and initially learned how to play guitar left-handed. About the first year I played. And we only had one guitar. And he was always getting pissed. He's like, dude, you can't keep taking the guitar and fucking restringing it. This is pissing me off.
You would restring it? That is fucking dedication.
I would do that. I tried to learn how to play upside down. She just wasn't happening, though. I was like, this is just insane. And so I started over from square one and just started playing right-handed.
Wow.
Because I went to go buy a left-handed guitar. And I was like, this is like $200 extra, than a regular guitar. And they're like, well, because it's a lefty. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I'll just play right-handed.
Exactly.
So I had to start over. And it's kind of sucked, but I kind of wish I would have kept playing left-handed, but is what it is.
Yeah, now it's a little more comparable in price, or at least,
It is, yeah. I don't think there's much difference nowadays, but back then
it was like 90s. One was up on the wall, right?
Yeah.
It was like one was like, sorry, it's cream, colored.
Yeah.
Shit.
Did you ever get Musician's Friend? It was like freaking pornography for musicians.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I got Musician's Friend, and then do you remember the Carvin catalogs?
Yes, I have not thought of that in years.
Do you remember how thin they were? Remember they were thin, but it was like
the white. It was like the white trash version of
totally.
Friend, wasn't
it? Yeah, but it was thin and small, and they would have the amps, and then it would be like their guitars and basses, and you would see the prices, and you would just be like, "Is this like top of the line?" But like from those magazines, like I could never take Carvin seriously, ever.
I can see that. Yeah. It was like, I'll look at this, but I won't buy anything.
Yeah. No, it was more just like a browse. I was like, okay, I'm gonna browse. But the Musician's Friend would come, and I would be like, "Oh my God, look at that!" And like, yeah, I always had secondhand stuff. I didn't buy a new guitar until, it might have been, I got like the Jim Atkins signature in like 2014 maybe or 2013. But for since the 90s, I was just buying, crappy stuff. But you're so right about like that, like staring at those things and like visualizing, and then you see the fucking ad, right, for Satch or Ingve with the scalloped frets, and you like, I didn't get to play on scalloped frets, right? I didn't know what that was, but you had this like thing that it was like, that must be fucking cool, or that must because he can be fast, and that's why I'm not fast, because I don't have scalloped frets.
Yeah. Have you played on those?
He did. And I did see him live.
I was gonna say, have you since played on scalloped frets?
No, I have not. Tell me.
I don't like them.
Really?
I don't like them. They're like indented. I don't know what the
is it because he can bend? Is it like bending?
I don't know. It's got to be some advantage for lead guitar players, and I'm not a lead guitar player. So like, when I played it, I tried to play it like a rhythm guitar, and I was like, I don't like this because there's big dips in the goddamn frets. But,
oh, it's so cool.
You said something that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
You said that you hadn't you didn't buy a guitar, or I guess a decent guitar, until later on in life. I've never ever paid more than $300 in my life for a guitar. And so when this Washed Up Emo one came in the mail, I was like, oh, this is what like a nice guitar feels like. I was like, this is crazy. Because I guess I have a Fender Tornado and a Gibson SG, or not Epiphone SG, and they're nice to me. But then like when you feel like, I was like, this was made by someone like in their house who like wanted to do this. And
yeah.
I was like, you can feel the difference, on it. And I thought that was really cool. But I've never, so it was a treat for me to get to play that guitar, because I was like, this is what an actual nice guitar feels like. When we would play in park, they'd be like, lad, you want to borrow my guitar? I'd be like, no. That's a bullshit guitar. I'll play my little $300 junk guitar that I found in the fucking dumpster.
So, I mean, I do want to talk about that. Like, what was it? Did you hear from Nate from Baldwin Guitars? He reach out? What was the response when you first heard and you're like, who the fuck is Tom? What is Washed Up Emo? I'm not washed up. What were the responses?
I was flattered. I was like, oh, cool. Someone's like, reaching out. I was like, no one has ever asked me to do a guitar review or anything like that. So I was like tickled pink. And I love the fact that someone thought of me to help someone else out. Cause I was like, that's what I can do is, anything I can do with the very, very tiny platform I have to help someone out, I would totally do, especially if it's in the music realm. And so I was really, really happy. I had never heard of the Washed Up Emo podcast. You can get online and look at everything in 2 seconds. And I was like, cool. I think first you always want to go like, is this legit? And then you think, look at stuff, you go, cool, website, legit, all sorts of episodes. And I started listening to all the episodes and just some of the bands you have on here. And I was like, man, I haven't, thought of like, Smoking Popes in forever, or like, Hey Mercedes or Set Your Goals, or all, whatever bands are on there, that you had interviewed and whatnot. And so it was, it's been a great experience so far. I really like, Nate is super, super, super cool, communicates super clearly, and you can tell he's really passionate about what he does, which is the cool thing. And it's a small operation, which almost reminds me of like, when like kind of like a label like Polyvinyl Press, who's like, hey, we're not going to do a huge bunch of stuff, but the stuff we're going to do, we're going to put our hearts into it. And that's what I really liked about it. Does that make sense? Absolutely.
And I want to get to you comparing the guitar sounds, because that's what I'm really interested in. But I think for the people listening, and there'll be a Nate episode as well, you can listen to us get really nerdy about the guitar. But it was interesting because when he mentioned Park to me, I just thought it was a really interesting marrying of what I wanted out of the guitar. Because I needed heavy, and I also needed things to sing and be heard through the noise and open chords. And so I think we had talked about this playlist that I made for Nate and some of these songs on here, At the Gates, Pantera, Rival Schools, Sunny Day. There's a Bush song, Rival Schools, Helmet, Hopes Fall. And again, the goal was essentially Appleseed Cast. That's what we kind of talked about. And I based it. Did Nate tell you what I based it on, the original inspiration?
No.
Jim Roots from Slipknot's guitar.
Okay.
Because I always loved their tone, and then the look of the guitar, how simple it was, all black. It kind of worked with the logo, but that was the original, like, okay, this would be a really cool fit for what we're trying to go for. But yeah, it was, I think, we talked about metal, which kind of plays into this. When you started playing it, when you started, again, it's just not like, oh, you have to be like, this is the best thing ever. But what things did you kind of start to play with that were different from, the guitars you have, or comparing sounds?
I think the first thing I did is I plugged everything in, and I play through a quad Cortex here at the house. And I was like, I want to see what this sounds like, just unadulterated, my Park tone that I use, which is a Bogner. I think it's an Ultra Lead, or I can't remember what it is, through whatever the mod is on the quad Cortex. And I played that. I played a few riffs and then compared it to my Tornado. And what I noticed was the Tornado it's got these atomic humbuckers that are like insane output. Like if you like have the gain up too high, you turn toward the amp, it's just squeals. And
hell yeah.
I've had to like turn it's cool for some instances, but sometimes you like walk to your amp and go, I find fucking, now I'm deaf. But that's what I noticed. And so, which is cool, because I think in the review I'm going to post, I said that they're lower output humbuckers, but not low output, at least from my point of view. And what I liked about them is kind of what you said. When I play, you don't lose any clarity. There's no loss of notes, even when I tried to push it real hard through I think I put like a JCM 800 on there with like a tube screamer and pushed the shit out of it. Didn't lose any clarity, which is nice, because if I would have done that with my guitar, all you're hearing is the three bass notes and the three bottom strings, and so that was really nice. And but I really liked it on like clean tones with a little bit of dirt out in front, like Fender Twin, Morgan, AC30. Those I recorded like, I don't know, 3 or 4 little ditties with it, and was like, this sounds great. And I did it all on the neck pickup, and had a really great time with it, because it just sounded really creamy, but a little bit of dirt to it. And like I said, there was no loss of clarity, because sometimes when you add that dirt to it, it muddies things up, and that didn't occur.
I love that. No, it is. That was I was actually, it's funny. I'm scrolling through Nate and I's text thread when he was like making it. He was sending me all these like comps and sending me stuff. And at one point he told me he's throwing on some skinny top heavy Ernie balls. And I sent him an Yngwie Malmsteen GIF. As a thank you for that. But yeah, what I really wanted, and I think was this thing that could do noise and like shoegaze, or like my dream would just be in an instrumental band and just make noise and atmospheric songs. If that guitar could have a life of its own and I was a gazillionaire, that's what I would just be doing, even if no one listened. But I think that idea of not losing while you're listening through the noise, I think is really hard. And I think that was probably, I might have said that to Nate 1,000 times. So that you picked up on that really quickly, or the guitar told you, that makes me really happy.
Well, I tried to get it to a point really fast where I couldn't discern the notes, and I couldn't do that. So, and which is a good thing, unless you're like, just wanting to play like, straight up metal. But, usually if you're doing rhythm metal, it's like, fucking, you turn up the bass, turn up the treble, turn the mid all the way down, and there you're, in the gain all the way up. And when I did that, it, like I said, still no loss of freaking clarity. So I was like, they put a lot of thought into doing that. And I immediately asked him what were the pickups used in this? And I think he said those signature bald buckers, which I don't know if he
does.
Is that something
he makes
so
them.
He made those. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I wouldn't know where to fucking start at all. Like, I was playing it the other night and I was like, my guitar, if I had to make one myself, would be such a piece of shit.
Really? Why?
Well, if I had to do all the things, if I had to start and be the carpenter and cut all this stuff, I'd be like, this thing would look like SpongeBob built it.
Oh yeah, no, we talk a lot about patience, because I don't know, I told him I have such a hard time with like negative thoughts that like I think if like I saw like if I like sanded the fretboard like off or something, like I would think I ruined it, right? If I like did one wrong move, it was like ruined. And he talked me off that ledge, but it was like I just was the way that he goes about it, the way that he looks at these, and the way that he approaches it was very interesting to hear. And I was like, I'm glad I just told you what I needed, because there's no way I would have done that.
Yeah. How long did that take you from like conception to release of this guitar?
Let's see when we talked. Oh yeah. So May 21st, he, right after I graduated grad school, it was their gift. So it might've been like mid-May, and then I sent him, and then he sent me the first 3D model in August. September, he cut it. October, he had pictures, and he gave it to me at Best Friends Forever. So what was that, like 6 months?
That's fast. That seems fast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We actually didn't talk about that, why it went so quick. I think I gave him a shit ton. I might have spoken to him. I might have given him another long email, or we might have gone back and forth a few times, but we really hashed it out quickly, and I gave a lot of trust. I was like, I don't like kind of you. Like I'd be like, I don't know, make it a box like SpongeBob. Like I have no idea. He was like, I gave him a few ideas, and I told him like certain woods, like I wanted a certain type of wood. I wanted that type of thing. So yeah. But yeah, I think if it's May, I don't know, but yeah, it's like 6-8 months or something. Not bad.
Yeah, you guys should be really proud. It's a great sounding, great looking guitar.
Thanks. No, and you're the first. This is like a first for us. Again, they were so cool to offer it as a gift, and then to be able to kind of have someone else. Like, it was really nervous. Like, I was nervous to hear what people thought. I was nervous to hear even what Nate thought. And to hear, you really like this, and it was something that you were stoked about. It was really, really cool to hear. And I'm glad. I hope you put it through its paces and give comments or give like honest feedback to it. And just, it means a lot, because you were right there, probably in a, different part of the country, searching and looking for certain things. And I think kind of like your band, like being able to connect in this way on the show with the guitar, and you kind of playing it, it's just really awesome for me to experience as well.
Yeah, I'm honored to be a part of it.
Cool. How has it been with people? Oh, sorry, go.
Just a side note, I have a friend named Woo, and when I got the guitar, I was like, hey, it says Woo on it. I was like, he'd think that's funny. So
oh, that's cool. Yeah, people have no idea. I mean, they do. It's like, I didn't want WUE. I just was like, no, let's just do Washed Up. It's like, you can
I like it. I like how simple it is.
Yeah. So how has it been, all these years? You kind of came back from social media. What about responding to people asking about Park, asking about old tours, asking about what's next? How has that been? And what is your audience? Is it mostly old people? Is it younger kids? Like, how has that been? Have you interacted enough to kind of feel? Because what I'm realizing is there's a huge younger audience that's in desperate search for new things. And I just find it really interesting when that happens. So what was your experience with people reaching out about the band?
At first, it was mostly, the fans that I had been familiar with. Park was never a huge band, so which was nice because the people that we interacted with, I'm like, hey, I know these people, and I've talked to them before. I just haven't talked to them in 10, 15 years. So that was the first impression, was we were able to deliver something to the solid fan base that hopefully they're gonna really like. And we didn't. I don't feel like we went too far out of left field with these new songs, but a lot of the times, with all of this revival of the emo music right now, which I think is great. I think it's awesome. I'm interested to hear some of these some of the older bands release new stuff to see what they're doing, and I hope that they go and part of me is like, I want the old. I want if I'm comparing it to a fast food restaurant, people eat McDonald's because it tastes like McDonald's and there's a comfort in it, and which is totally fine. But part of me wants it to be newish, and hey, I hope they try new things, because that was part of that music movement that really spoke to me and wanted me to be, that made me want to be a part of it, was the newness of it. So I hope that it's just new, but not so out of left field that it alienates people. But I think whatever bands do, people will like, just because it's nostalgic and all that. But I've seen, just with the Park stuff, I've seen a little bit interaction of younger fans. There's a girl on Instagram who tagged me in a reel where she was singing, all the lobs, I don't know, she went through the entire Lobster record catalog, and I was like, this girl's not, my age. She's significantly younger. I was like, which is cool, because they're actually listening to all this older stuff, which is really, really nice. So I think at first, to answer your question, I think at first it's been the tried and true fans, but I don't think it limits us to just that fan base. I think there's going to be newer people that come out and support the band. I've seen. I'm trying to think of I never look at the crowd when we play. I'm always like, I'm still stage fright after all these years, of playing, and I'm like, I'll just close my eyes and there's no one there, and so and I've gotten a little bit better about it, but yeah, it's not just all old people.
I love
watching
it.
us. So
I
I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. What are you excited to do next outside of Park? Is it writing lyrics? Is it another book? I'm joking. About the lyrics part. I know you don't like it. What are you excited about to do?
Actually just started outlining. I'm almost finished outlining another book about, ironically, a Park memoir. It's not really a memoir, but it's more of a, oh gosh, what do they call them? Ramona Clef. Have you ever heard of those novels?
No.
So it's what's an example of a Ramona Clef?
Spell
On
it.
the Road.
Oh.
ROMANACLEF. But it's like Roman Aklef. It's got an apostrophe on the A.
Oh.
And I think
real life events that are overlaid with a facade of fiction.
Correct. Yeah. So On the Road is a Romana Clef. So those were all real people that he based, that he fictionalized. So I've been going through an outline where I'm, fictionalizing some of the experiences Park had, and where I think what might be interesting about it is a lot of musician autobiographies or memoirs always kind of follow this: the band's nothing, the band gets big, the band is having trouble with their own success, and then the band goes away, then the band gets it all back
behind the music.
Yeah, kind of thing like that. And I was like, Park never got big, and I'm fine with that. I was like, but we still ran into all the issues big bands do, just on smaller scales. And so I thought it'd be interesting to tell that story through the lens of a few different people that were in the band, and then even people outside of the band who just kind of saw things happening, instead of having it be one-sided. So it'd be more of, a band that, still went on tour, still, you know, played great shows, but just never got to the point of being commercial. But I don't even know if that's really what they ever really wanted to do, because we saw other bands get commercially big, and I was like, I don't want that. I do not want that at all, because it looked like, you know, a myriad of problems I didn't have. And so that's kind of what I'm working on, you know, for the future, and then along with the park stuff, which I think the park stuff is actually infinitely harder to work on the music than the book stuff. But that's where I'm aimed at right now, and just kind of putting one foot in front of the other and seeing what happens.
I love that. I love that writing a book is easier for you than writing lyrics.
It's a wider canvas. I mean, look at it from.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Point,
yeah.
Look at it from a point of canvas, because it's like, hey, you have 3 minutes to tell this story and to do all the things you need to do, and you need to condense it in a small space in such a way that it's really interesting, versus, you know, a novel, which is, I don't know, 80 to 1,000, 100,000 words. You have a much larger canvas to paint on and to make things interesting. And the perk of the song is it's a quicker canvas. And the drawback of the book is it's it takes a little bit longer to get through.
Yeah. I love that. What's it been like being involved in the scene, finding the DIY, and how has it guided you?
I think it's been a defining moment in my life. You know, I think everyone who found the DIY scene in whatever music genre you attach to it just found a group of like-minded people who were interested in the same thing and were able to have an outlet to experience that. And that's opened up, you know, I mean, an entire world. I wouldn't be talking to you right now if that wasn't the case. It's a much larger world than it used to be, and much more easily interconnected because, you know, of the internet. I mean, we used to have Maximum Rock and Roll, where I would send away for, like, you know, Jawbreaker, what are they called? Bootlegs of videos. And then, you know, they'd send you, I don't know, 2 or 3 other bands on the bootleg videotape. And you'd be like, I don't know who these guys are. You'd watch it, you know, but, you know, you get, you know, exposure to other people. So it's like I said, been a really defining moment where it gives you a ton of insight into, how do I want to put this, just the smaller levels of how things are conducted. And I think you can, like, to where, you know, a label like Polyvinyl, you know, I think they start off as a zine, right? And then they just, am I right in that? I think they did, didn't they?
You're probably right.
Because I actually have one of their zines downstairs somewhere. But they start out small like that, and then they grow, and then they get to a certain point where they're like, I'm comfortable without being, you know, any bigger than I already am. And I think a lot of businesses that grew from that have the same business model, where they're like, you know, we're not greedy, we're just doing the things we want to do. And that's, you know, that's good, where we our level of growth is where it should be. Does that make sense?
It does. I love it. Anything else you want to mention?
I don't know.
Okay.
I still don't have any hair. Still bald.
You're still bald? Okay. So that's been a long-standing tradition?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. No, I'm just going to think of anything to say.
That was perfect.